We've invited legislators to join us throughout the morning to do the same. The House coming in at 9 o'clock today. We'll hear from 4 legislators before it's done. Representative Glenn Grothman, Republican of Wisconsin. He serves on the Oversight and Government Reform and Judiciary Committees, joining us from Capitol Hill. Representative Grothman, good morning.
Good morning.
What was your impression of last night's address?
I thought it was the best speech we heard of Donald Trump. You know, it was at least the 6th time we gathered in that chamber to hear him speak. Of course, given his performance in the first 5 years, you could say in some ways it was a very easy speech to write. He's had tremendous successes at the border. What he has plans for as far as getting medical costs under control, you know, he's not somebody influenced by campaign contributions. He's standing up to the health insurance companies. He's standing up to the prescription drug companies. He cited American heroes, both 100-year-olds who had fought in World War II. He was able to highlight and give a little bit of notice to some people who had lost loved ones, particularly due to the horrific illegal immigration. So I thought it was a great speech. I thought it was his best speech, and everybody else I talked to last night felt the same way.
Representative Grothman, when it comes to the economy and how we characterize it, a golden age, to what degree do you agree with that sentiment?
I think it's great. I think it's certainly better than it was a few years ago. We still have a situation in which, you know, we have a employee shortage, relatively easy to find jobs. The inflation, you know, we haven't had a decrease after the big cost increases of the Biden economy, but inflation recently is down considerably. I know gas price has been the lowest it's been in a long time, at least in my district. So I felt the economy was good, and it's going to get better, particularly as the deregulation hits and energy costs. The lower energy costs ripple through the economy.
You've probably seen polling over the last couple of days leading up to the State of the Union, charting the president's performance on the economy. The last one, this one from the Post and ABC News, saying 57% of Americans disapproved of that handling of the economy. Do you think that's a messaging issue as far as what the administration wants to tout and how Americans are receiving that?
Like I said, I think they have to lay out that the things that people are disappointed in are very difficult to undo, say, the inflation of the Biden years. And that's got to be explained to people. I think we can do a better job of highlighting the labor shortage and how much money is available out there for people who want to work. I'll tell you, I've spoke several times with Walmart, for example. Now, they only hire the best, but you've got truck drivers for Walmart now making 140 grand a year. That's pretty good, right?
To your home state of Wisconsin, talk a little bit about what people are telling you there, and particularly when it comes to the tariffs. The president addressed the tariffs, particularly the Supreme Court ruling, his economy, or at least his plans for the economy built on tariffs. What do you think of the future of tariffs, and how does that affect the people in your state?
Well, we'll see. To be honest, I think President Trump is the best president of my lifetime. You know, we don't agree on 100% of everything. I'm not as big a fan of the tariffs as President Trump. Nevertheless, it hasn't resulted in the huge problems that some people were predicting.
Talk a little bit about, will this message that's delivered last night, do you think, how does that assist when it comes to midterms? Do you think this is going to be something that should continue?
I think it's good because it was such a positive speech that if he sticks with that, it will help us, you know, get another 2 or 3 points we may need to hold on to our majority. And of course, the Democrats last night, they weren't speaking, but their performance, their refusal to stand up for lines that anybody should have stood up for, I think that says a little bit about them as well. When he talked about dealing with the transgender issue, again, kind of sitting down. So I think for people who are really paying close attention last night, I think their kind of their anti-Trump childishness, the refusal to stand up at times where they should have stand up, I think it'll hurt the Democrats.
On some other things going on currently in light of this speech, how long do you think before there's a resolve in the partial funding stopping at DHS?
It could take a while because the Democrats just plain and simply don't want to fund ICE. You know, we went through this thing a couple of years ago where so many Democrats wanted to defund the police. Well, if you want to have any immigration law at all, ICE is the people who enforce it. And the Democrats really don't want immigration laws. It goes back to a couple presidential campaigns ago when they promised free medical care for all illegals coming here, which they had under Joe Biden. But it continues to be a problem, and that if the Democrats don't want to fund ICE, and they don't want to, it sends the message all around the world that we aren't enforcing immigration laws. And as Donald Trump pointed out, as soon as you get a different president or even a different Congress in there, I think the Democrats are going to want to go back to the days in which you get 3 million, maybe 4 million illegals coming here every year, which would be horrific, but that really is their goal. They're one world government type of people who don't know why you need a border at all.
Representative Grothman, you are on the Oversight Committee. In attendance last night, several members of the guests that were invited, victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Your committee's investigating that. What more do you think needs to be done on this front?
Well, we want to look in. I think one of the things we ought to be doing is looking for other people who can give us more information. You know, I'm going to be present, I intend, on Friday when we depose President Clinton. I don't think he's the most honest person in the world, so I don't expect to get a lot of breaking news out of him. But perhaps some of the other characters who are around Epstein Island, the other characters who staffed Jeffrey Epstein's airplane, will be more forthcoming and tell us a little bit more that's out there. You know, we've heard of a lot of famous people who've already been caught in this net. We know, who the problems are, but I think there are a lot of people I'd like to yet know. I do think that perhaps early on some of those files disappeared, but it says something about the elite of this country, and it seems largely we're dealing with liberal elite, though not exclusively. Their sexual mores are very different than that of the average American.
When you say disappear, can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think early on, and I'm saying going back over 10 years ago, I think when they went into Jeffrey Epstein's, I can't remember if it was an apartment or offices or whatever, I think things were left unattended for a while, and that was wrong.
And before we let you go, back to your deposition of President Clinton, which you highlighted, you said you didn't think you were going to get a whole lot out of it. I'm paraphrasing. Why is that? Can you elaborate on that?
Because I think he and his wife are known liars, right? I mean, they both lie so much, and it's been demonstrable. I mean, are all of a sudden they going to start telling the truth just because it's a congressional committee?
And so before we let you go, I know I promised that, but what's the next best step the administration should take after last night?
Well, I think we have to continue to clamp down on excessive government spending. I was glad that we're going to be looking into more of the spending abuses that's been assigned to Vice President Vance. I also hope they look at the welfare, because, of course, our welfare system is almost designed to keep the man out of the family, so many fatherless homes. It's not an accident that that's happening. It's happening because that's the way our welfare system is built up, and I hope President Trump or Vice President Vance lead the charge and restructure that welfare system so we stop penalizing married couples.
Representative Glenn Grothman, Republican of Wisconsin. He serves on the Oversight and Government Forum, Judiciary, and Budget Committees. Representative Grothman, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Back to your